Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Darren Smith with you, along with Steve Walls, and we are live from inside the press box here at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio, where the Kansas City Chiefs are looking to take on the Cincinnati Bengals in just under a half hour before kickoff, where, of course, the Chiefs. This is, Steve, a big-time atmosphere. Feels like a playoff-type game, knowing that today's win or loss by the Kansas City Chiefs will have an effect on if they're the number 1 seed or as low as the number 4 seed coming out of today's game.
Yeah, it's definitely a bigger game than fans would have expected earlier on in the season. When you see just going off of the past games that the Chiefs have played against the Bengals and any NFL team, rather for that matter, you put a W in the win column early on, but then now it has playoff implications. So it's going to be an exciting game.
Interesting, the Bengals lead the all-time series for Chiefs fans 15-14. So if the Chiefs win today, they'll tie the series up. The Bengals actually won 4 of the last 5 games, but the last game that was the last time the Chiefs played against the Bengals, they won 45-10. That was, I believe, a 6-touchdown performance by Patrick Mahomes at that time when they won, and that game was in Kansas City at the time. The last time these two teams played at this particular site, though, the Bengals got the better of the Chiefs 36-21, but this was back in 2015. But with this game, this is Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, first time going up against the Chiefs, as well as Andy Reid. Andy Reid is 2-3-1 against this team, but obviously the big news of the day for the Chiefs fans, Steve, is of course the return of Travis Kelce, Harrison Butker, all the players that were on the COVID-19 reserve list. They're back in today's game against against the Bengals. And the only player that's going to be out that the starter is of course Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who used to be teammates with Joe Burrow.
Yes, this game was one for the making, right? Because you think about how they played last week. You have your star or 2 of your stars early on in the week that you don't know if they're going to be playing tonight, and then all of a sudden you get Tyreek Hill that's announced that he'll be playing last week on which I think it was on Friday, so he didn't practice all week, and then Travis Kelce, who you thought would be a game time or at least a Saturday evening decision, and he didn't play last week, but they asked some guys to step up, like Eric Bieniemy says. They coach their guys to be their backups to be starters, and so you had a guy like Byron Pringle. Who's been contributing, even last year into this year, most of all this season. So I think that's a good problem to have when you have guys that are able to step up. And now going into where the nitty gritty part of the season, that you're going to need all of your receivers on hand.
Trying to set the stage for you, of course, Kansas City, they are currently sitting in the number 1 spot in the AFC. Cincinnati Bengals, based off of their 41-21 win last week against the Baltimore Ravens, are seeded number 3. So the Bengals do have a chance to have an outside shot of the number 1 seed if a dominoes fall in their direction. The Chiefs, though, for them to lock up the number 1 seed today, they need to win and also hope for a Tennessee Titans loss. But at the end of the day, all the Chiefs have to do is take care of business, win the last 2 games, and they're the number 1 seed, get a bye week, and then, of course, the road to Los Angeles runs through Arrowhead once again. But, Steve, last week the Chiefs were 36-10 winners over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bengals, again, as I mentioned, 41-21 over the Baltimore Ravens. These two teams, bettors, odds makers, fantasy fans, everyone is expecting a high-scoring game in today's output. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I said earlier, which is on Friday, 31-17, and I'm gonna stick with that. I think when you look at the young quarterbacks that go up against Patrick Mahomes, what do they try to do? They try to kind of play out of their game, so to speak. And even Joe Burrow said earlier this week, we're gonna have to keep up with them score wise. So that lets me further know, it's like, all right, they understand that they're gonna have to put up points, but if it's not there, then you can't do that. And so you have Joe Burrow, you have Justin Herbert, you have even Josh Allen. He's not a young guy, but Derek Carr, he even falls into that kind of category where Kansas City comes in and they put up two quick touchdowns, and it's like, man, they came out and punched us in the mouth. And so now we're going to have to go away from our run game and strict to our pass game. So I think it helped Joe Burrow a little bit last week that he had over 500 yards passing. And look, if you think it's going to be a shootout today, I just don't know about that.
Of course, one of the things that Chiefs fans are looking forward to is, again, we talked about the quarterback matchup, but the defense of Kansas City, if defensively they can get after Joe Burrow, that's one of the things that Kansas City has been able to do recently with all the healthy players coming back is getting pressure on the quarterback. One of the things that hurts the Bengals is that they're not really able to protect their quarterback very well, but he stays in the pocket. He's one of those young quarterbacks that, saying that's about that. People will say who's about that life. He'll talk trash to the defense, to the opposing team. But with he and Jamar Chase, one of his former teammates at LSU, I mean, they've got probably one of the best connections in the NFL. Jamar Chase, as a rookie, became a Pro Bowl starter this year. So, things offensively look good for the Bengals. The question is, how will the Bengals be able to slow down or stop the Chiefs' offense?
Look, here's the thing about it. If they're not able to make the Chiefs have to run the ball, which now has become one of their strengths, right? Even though there's going to be no Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you're still going to have Derek Gore, you're still going to have Damian Williams, who has had 2 years worth of Super Bowl experience. So they're going to get Jerick McKinnon back. But if you try to force them to run the ball and limit their passing plays, which is the strength, I think that would probably be the only way that you're able to slow down the Chiefs' offense.
Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce. Obviously, again, a lot of fantasy players, a lot of people are looking at this game. If you're going to bet, of course, the game, the over-under is 51. I would say, regardless of the final score is going to be, I think it's going to be over. I think you can kind of blast through that. If it's a low-scoring game, I think it will be a surprise to a lot of people. They had some early rains this morning, but the field, being what it is, it's I can't say it looks good. I think this is what the field normally looks like. But the atmosphere is going to be great. This does have a playoff type feel to it. Again, if the Bengals, for the Bengals to get the number one seed, they would need to win out, which means beating Kansas City. And they would have the head-to-head, but they would have to win out, and the Chiefs would still have to lose another game, and Tennessee Titans would have to lose 2 games in a row for them to get the number one seed. But looking at this game, Tyrann Mathieu, Harrison Butker is back. Of course, that was one of the things that the Chiefs, were kind of worried about last week against Pittsburgh, where how would they perform special team-wise. But now you got Butker back, you got Tommy Townsend back. You really have the Chiefs, Steve, at full strength. I mean, again,
that's relative, though. You remember what Chris Jones said earlier this week? It was like he was back from COVID, but he still didn't have, his full strength. So, and I understand that everyone's body makeup is different, and everyone handles things differently as far as when you get COVID or when you get sick. Furthermore, but I think time will tell. We'll be able to see come kickoff in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, of course. Looking at this game and looking at players defensively, on the defensive side of the ball, of course, Trey Hendrickson, he had a sack last week, Steve. Von Bell had 2 pass deflections and his first interception last week. This is going to be the type of game. And look, we talk about all the time where Patrick needs to be careful and need to be worried about, his passes. Now, the Chiefs have been able to, with their first 15 scripted plays or whatever, they've been able to march up and down the field and do fairly well as it relates to getting the ball into the end zone. what is is there anything that Andy Reid can devise a scheme up against this Bengals defense that will allow Patrick the freedom, saying to kind of do what he likes to do, which is run around and obviously kind of try to make big plays, or do you think that the Bengals will still run a two shell high like everybody else has been doing and giving the Chiefs everything underneath?
I think they're going to do what they've been doing. I mean, you get the 10, 12, 13 play drives down the field, and not try to force anything. Pretty much take what you can get. And that's what Patrick came out earlier in the season said that he wanted to do, and he didn't really do that. And I know you talk a lot about the opposing defenses or teams figuring out Patrick Mahomes and figuring out the deep ball. Well, it's not hard to figure that out if you're just going to play two shell and not let them beat you deep, which is what Tampa Bay put on film in the Super Bowl. So I think coming in today, they're going to have to just take what the defense is able to give them and give some of those underneath throws. Tyreek Hill, Andy Reid is one of those coaches where he's going to draw up some stuff that you've never seen before. And a lot of the plays that he puts into place early on in the season, there's 4 or 5 to 7 different variations of that same play. So, Andy Reid is a mastermind when it comes to that. I think today you'll be able to see what he's able to do.
Looking at this game, the Kansas City Chiefs again, they are 11-4. Cincinnati Bengals 9-6. Kickoff is at the top of the hour here, 1:00 locally, noon back in Kansas City. We're inside Paul Brown Stadium. Of course, he was the owner and one of the godfathers who helped start this league, start the merger and stuff like that. But Steve, Andy Reid, 2-3-1. It's not too often that Andy faces a team that he's actually underwater going up against. I mean, I don't want to read more into it than what it is, but last week with the Chiefs win, he moved into second place all time on the Chiefs head coaching wins list. But how big of a game is this for him, or is this just like any other game for him?
I don't feel like it's a big game. Andy is so even keel where if it does bother him, you never know. Or if there is some kind of big game or something where he's excited about something, you won't know. So I mean that's kind of one of those things where Andy's gonna come out here and you're gonna get the same Andy Reid, whether it's his first game in the league or whether it's his last game in the league. You're still gonna get that same Andy.
Looking at today's ball game, Steve, I mean, this is going to be, for me, I think this is going to be an interesting type game because you want to see whether or not, for me, what the Chiefs decide to stick with. Will they stick to a running game, or will that be something that the Bengals will try to do? Do you think you'll look to see more of a big game from Joe Mixon because they'll want to try to keep the Chiefs offense on the sidelines? Or do you just think that it's going to be guns and blazing where, as you mentioned before, young quarterbacks trying to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, especially after Joe Burrow put up 525 yards in the air last week? Do you see the Bengals offense looking to attack the Chiefs defense and try to have that same type of play that they did against the Baltimore Ravens last week?
They're going to try to do the exact same thing. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think that's the kind of mentality that they're going to have. And listening to Joe Burrow earlier on this week, he a lot of swag at how he talks, man. It's just you can tell he has that confidence, and last week definitely helped that out. 500 yards of offense, of passing offense, so to speak. And I think when you look at Joe and just how he's made up, what Andy Reid called him a smooth operator. Chief defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo called him a young Tom Brady. So when you're gonna get quotes like that and what people are calling you, saying that you look like young Tom Brady, I mean, that gives you a lot more confidence than you would normally have coming into a big game.
Kickoff, again, just under 20 minutes away right now, Steve. Of course, it was a journey just to get here because we are the only KC media here in Cincinnati covering the game due to flight arrangements and travel and cancellation and things of that nature. But got to tell the people here, it is a big time atmosphere. You see a lot of black and gold or black and orange out here, which is going to be interesting to say the least. I mean, it's looking forward to see, of course, the crowd reaction. I know we generally talk about when we're on the road. Chief fans are home of the Chiefs, whether or not when they do the Star Spangled Banner. And of course, we have Mark Donovan, the Chiefs president, and Brett Veach, who sit in the press box with us on the road. They always kind of give a thumbs up or whatever, depending on the size of of the home of the Chiefs and whether or not they feel like that's going to help them, I guess in the game, with the crowd participation and Chiefs fans cheering on the team. There are a lot of Chiefs fans here. We don't, I mean, and they really are a mix within within the
It's
crowd
kind of
out
hard to
here.
tell too, because I mean, you got the orange and you got the red. They kind of blend together when they're all sitting close.
Yeah. So looking at this, I mean, if you're a Chiefs fan, what are you looking for? What are you hoping to see in today's ball game that gives you confidence in what Kansas City can be able to pull out a win in today's game?
I think Chiefs fans should be really looking at this defense. The defense has kind of helped this team win games. With this 8 game stretch, which is right now, I believe the longest winning stretch in the NFL right now. So, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm watching this defense, making sure that they're looking the same as they've been looking these past few weeks. A lot of fire, a lot of energy, make Joe Burrow ton the ball over, and I think that's what they're going to go out there and try to do.
Steve, what it all boils down to for me, Kansas City knows what's at stake. They've been in the situation before. The Bengals, they have not, at least obviously under Joe Burrow, because he's only his second year in the league. But the Chiefs, they know what they want. They want the number one seed. They know they want to have that extra week off. They know they want to be able to watch the playoffs at home for the first weekend, see teams beat each other up, know who you're going to play, go out, have the playoffs run through Arrowhead. At the end of the ball, at the end of today's game, how are we looking? Give me your thoughts. Give me your X factor in today's game and the result.
31-17. That's real quick and to the point. I think the Chiefs need to come out here and show uh, not only the Bengals but the league why they're still the big brother in the team. So I mean in the league. So I think they're going to come out here, put up some quick points, and that's what they're going to need to do. But like I said, the defense has been pretty much unstoppable. They've been holding teams to under 20 points, and that's what they're going to have to do again today. So I think the defense is definitely going to be the X factor.
For me, I think at the end of the day, Chiefs are going to they're going to hit them with different doses of the running game. I think the Chiefs get about 80. I think they get between 85 and 100 yards on the ground to kind of keep the Bengals defense honest. But I do think you're going to get a big game from Patrick Mahomes. I know we talked before we came on the air. I think Patrick gets about 4 touchdowns, as you mentioned. I think Travis will get 2. Even though he's kind of working his way off, as some people mentioned from the Cincinnati media. Travis looked okay, down in
Right.
Texas. Now I don't know if it was chugging beers because he wasn't running a route or anything like that, but I do think Patrick gets his main players back into the thick of things offensively. I think Tyree gets a touchdown pass. I think Kelsey will get 2 touchdowns in today's ball game. And I think overall, I think I think the defense plays well. And as you mentioned, I think they probably get a turnover as well. One of the things that we haven't really talked about is that the Chiefs defensively, they've turned things around. They're now plus in the plus column when it comes to giveaways and takeaways. So they're +3 right now compared to where they were really underwater earlier this year. To start the season before they went on their 8 game win streak. So I got the Chiefs win. I think it is going to be a shootout. I think both teams, Bengals know what they're going to do. I think the fans, I think the crowd does play a factor in today's ball game, but I do believe Kansas City wins this game 35-27.
Hmm.
I think the Chiefs get out to a big start, and they never look back. And I think the defense helps contribute to a turnover that will. And Kansas City, look, because Kansas City knows what's at stake, they've got to take advantage of every opportunity that they get a chance with the football. And they also know how valuable that the football is going to be for them, that they cannot afford turnovers or any kind of crazy play. So I think Patrick plays within himself.
Mhm.
I actually think he has a clean ball game. I think he doesn't throw any interceptions in today's game. And the Chiefs, again, as I said before, win this game. They win this game 35-27.
I agree. I agree. It's a big game, and they able to write their own way to into number one seed for playoffs.
Before we get out of here, Steve, of course, as usual, we like to shout out to our sponsors. Let you go first. Who styled you today, and and anybody else you want to shout out.
Shout out to Dillard's that is my clothing outfit sponsor. Have me ready for my game day look. Also Leandra Harden who styles me each and every week. So I want to shout out to them. Dillard's on the roster. Go out there and check them out. You still have time. If you didn't get your holiday gift lined up for your for your significant other, go out there and check them out.
And of course, I want to give a shout out to Todd White and Todd's clothing dealer suits. Again, if you all knew half of what Steve and I had to go through to get here today, you would appreciate it even more. But I want to thank him for styling me as well. And also want to give a shout out to Colin Shipley Gates and Gates Barbecue for feeding Steve and I before we traveled because we had a long road to get here to get into Cincinnati on yesterday. So before we get out of here, make sure you join us tomorrow night. We'll be doing it virtually, the Red Hour with Steve Walls, myself, DJ Q, and Sean Tyler. Then, of course, we'll have more and more post-game coverage here after the game today. Of course, we'll be bringing you the Chiefs Zoom live on our respective channels. And then, of course, you can join me at 3 o'clock p.m. locally tomorrow on the Darren Sterling Show on ESPN Kansas City. So for Steve Walls, I am Darren Smith. We are here live inside of the press box here at Paul Brown Stadium, where the Chiefs will take on the Cincinnati Bengals in about 10 minutes. We are out.